Look, if it was up to me giving out the 2024 Brownlow Medal, it would honestly be a tie between all of you guys, because not only are you the best audience on YouTube, but you are the fairest. You keep me accountable, you pull me up when I get out of hand, your support's been amazing. So I reckon all of you should be bringing this award home, but I guess we should talk about the second best Brownlow in the AFL. Sure, why not? 2.5 months in, I think we've got a pretty good gauge on who's in it, but also who may not be in it, but we're told are in the hunt for the 2024 Brownlow Medal. Let's talk about all of it. I'm actually going to touch on the guy who I think, and most footy fans will probably agree, is out in front. I'm actually going to do him last in terms of the contenders, because that would be a boring short video. Let's talk about Nick Daicos, first of all, which I know is going to annoy some people, but he is catching the eye. And I think when I tried to run somewhat successfully, definitely not last year, but successfully in the past, my own Brownlow simulations, the one thing that numbers can't take into effect is the eye test at all. And unfortunately, if you're someone who's not a fan of Nick for some reason, and if it's the media that's done this to you, I get it. I did a TikTok on why the media is killing Nick Daicos' likability amongst non-Collingwood fans, and out of everything I've ever done on YouTube and everything I've ever done on TikTok, it's the most watched thing I've ever done, with about 12,000 views at this point. So there is a market for hating this guy, rightly or wrongly. I believe wrongly, if it's due to the influence of other people, therefore the media. I do get, though, that narrative that he had 41 on the weekend, but his kicking efficiency was 30%. There's a story behind that, though, the contested nature out of stoppage, but we have had players in the competition that have been criticised for poor ball use out of stoppage. Think of guys like Tom Mitchell, Matt Crouch, even Libba before the last two seasons started. But we all know that Nick is a better kick than all of those guys and plenty more. Darcy Parish has copped it in his career a little bit as well. So Nick's obviously a better kick than those guys. But I obviously know that the AFL media is a clicks world. YouTube is a clicks world. It worked if you're watching this right now. But there is no doubt that as Collingwood continue their rise up the ladder with their injury history, if he's on the park, he's always a chance. He's their best player. That's always a chance as well. And when they win, he's usually a massive contributing factor. So whatever you think of his season compared to last year's even, I don't think he's obviously as out in front as he probably should have been last year before the injury. He's still up there. It's as simple as that. His numbers are an increase on last year. Collingwood are winning games. He's getting votes. Like it or not. I like it, by the way. I think he's a star, and I love watching him play. You might think this one's a weird one, and I get it, but Max Gawn I'm going to put here in the contender status. So Wheelo ratings, which is where I get a lot of my statistical numbers from that you guys seem to love so much, also have a Brownlow simulation, and they've got Gawn in third. And I understand every reason as to why Max Gawn can't win the Brownlow. Trust me, I know them all. He's a ruckman, not a midfielder. There are times on the eye test where he is not popping off the page, if you will. Well, the screen, really, but you know what I mean. As well, I get all that. Here's the thing. When Melbourne win is a massive factor as to why. I thought West Coast on the weekend in round 9 played him the best I've seen anyone play against Max Gawn for a while, and weirdly that includes the Sydney game, because the work that West Coast did off the ball maybe wasn't as aggressive, but with the tight confines of the SCG, you had a bit more leeway to try and impede him. But with the open expanses of Optus Stadium and the fact that he had as little impact as he did compared to his normal output was extraordinary. And you look at his numbers, they don't look terrible in the slightest. But the old eye test theory, which I promise I'm not going to keep using throughout the video, wasn't as strong. But when they win, he is dominating. And at this point in time, is winning Melbourne's best and fairest. And I think he could be a smoky in terms of high votes. but I think Wheelo may have this wrong. I think the betting markets have got him at about $67. I'm kind of in the middle on that, but it is what it is. Gamble responsibly, but I don't think putting it on Max Gawn is going to be the right thing to do, although he is well on his way to his 7th All-Australian blazer, because the rest of the ruckmen in the competition are putting together dominant weeks, but not really super strong seasons compared to last year. Let's also go to Zack Merritt, who at this point in time I think is the All-Australian captain, and it's not really that close. I understand, given Sydney are flying at the moment, but their captain's not playing, so that's a little bit difficult. If you're the kind of person that goes, well, if the best team in the comp, if their captain's in the side, well, it probably should be them. I can understand that logic, don't get me wrong. I really can. I'm more of a fan of just which captain in the team played the best deserves to be All-Australian captain. It's why Toby Green got it last year. I was fully on board with that in a massive, massive way. However, I just think that Merritt has been the best captain in the league this year, and I will touch on who I think are second and third. Well, I think Gawn is in that podium as well. I'm going to talk about the guy who I think should be at this point unanimously third on that list. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video, but the eye test for Merritt has never been better. His defensive work has never been better. His disposal efficiency compared to previous seasons is actually poor, which is not a bad thing and not a criticism in any way, shape or form. Number one, Brownlow medalists don't use the ball all that well. You think of Fife's 2 seasons, didn't go at above 71% in any of those seasons. Neil didn't. Cripps didn't. Tom Mitchell didn't. It's not something you need to do. You don't need to be the best kick in the comp unless you're Dusty in 2017, all right? I get that. Dangerfield, not a great kick, but other parts of his game just made him the Brownlow medalist, which makes a lot of sense. Matt Priddis was never a good kick of the footy, still made sense. Dane Swan wasn't known as a beautiful kick of the footy. I still think he's an underrated player, as silly as that sounds. But you don't need to be the best kick in the comp in order to win a Brownlow. You need to bring other things to the table. And Zack Merritt's doing that. And Essendon, second on the ladder. Darcy Parish has been hurt a little bit. The scope of guys that may take 3-vote games down to a 2 or a 1 is a little bit lesser, which is awesome. Absolutely awesome for Zack at the moment. I could not be a bigger fan of Zack Merritt at the moment. If you can't tell throughout the content, he is genuinely flying. And I think any of those 3 players, if you told me they were third at the moment, I would be perfectly fine with that. But I think number 2 and number 1 are so obvious right now. And I think at least a game ahead, as strange as that sounds. But I think second right now in the Brownlow is Caleb Serong. And I don't think there is much of a debate around this at all. He is dominating in wins. He is Freo's statistically best kick inside 50 so far this year. And that includes Hayden Young, which is extraordinary. But their retention rate of inside 50s for a team that just needs to score 5-0 in games they've scored 68, more than 68 points in, I should say. So, his effective contested possessions are insane. That's not a stat, but winning the ball in the contest and hitting targets is so important. And I think he's doing that nearly better than anyone else in the competition at the moment. He is so well-rounded as a midfielder. And when Freo go to another level in games, so does he. I think Luke Jackson and Rowan Marshall are going to get Brownlow votes in the St Kilda Freo game. He absolutely could get 1 vote there, but he is going to continually get 2s and 3s in games that Freo win, because not only are they scoring in their victories, of course, they're also setting it up in the midfield, and he is their best midfielder by a long way. He is comfortably, for mine, sitting on the podium on the Brownlow medal count after round 10, but there is one guy, obviously, who probably is so far ahead at the moment, and that is Isaac Heeney. How far ahead? Probably up to personal opinion at this point, but his numbers are stupid. He is averaging 26 disposals and over 1.5 goals a game. Whereas, and I've spoken about this, but I know other media people, commentators, all these kinds of things have said the same. If you're a midfielder / half-forward flank that can average 20 disposals and a goal, you are in an elite group. And think of someone like Dylan Moore, for example, who's averaging around that mark, and you're like, that is extraordinary. Isaac Heeney's averaging 0.6 more goals and 6 more disposals, as well as the clearances, as well as the score involvements. And the fact that he has got this star-studded lineup around him and he is clearing them easily is nuts. And the insecure part of me goes, you know what? When he was kind of being wasted on a half-forward flank, it makes sense. You can't be that good looking and that good at footy. It doesn't make sense. I don't know what kind of shit day God was having when he was putting this stuff together. And I'm not even religious, but stuff it. I'm blaming him anyway. He's flying at the moment, the Bondi bombshell, and catch him if you can is kind of the adage that I'll give. But if someone can, I think Caleb Serong can throughout the rest of the season. Knock on wood that he stays healthy, as I hope all players do. I don't think anyone likes seeing injuries, and if you do, that's a little bit weird, I think, for opposition players. But the other guys, the other contenders, so those 5 that were up here are the top 5 in the Wheelo ratings simulations, and I want to talk about some guys who aren't even close to those 5 in that kind of simulation, but I think the bookies love, and I think may not be getting that kind of love that they should be. I want to talk about the guy, first of all, that in my opinion is the second best captain in the league at the moment, and that's Patrick Cripps, who, look, has already won a Brownlow, as we know, but his year this year has been extraordinary. Eye test-wise, the bullocking bull is back. He is so eye-catching with Walsh back. Sure, Walsh are going to compete for the votes in the Melbourne game with Christian Petrarca, of course, who won't be featuring in this discussion. That's okay, but Cripper, he's going to be right up there. I think Zach Butters, with Connor Rozee out, is going to be up there as well at this point. He's going to get the 3, and rightly so, in the Hawthorn game, but everything he does is just so eye-catching at the moment. It is extraordinary. Extraordinary at this point. Marcus Bontempelli, the Bulldogs, they're on a good trajectory at the moment. If they keep that up, the Bont's just going to be playing awesome footy, and he's a guy that polls well but can't quite get over the hump, unfortunately, but we'll see how that goes. But I think the biggest trap in the Brownlow Medal race at the moment is Chad Warner. And the big reason for that is the guy front and centre in the thumbnail of this video, and the bloke called the Bondi Bombshell. It is very rare in Brownlow Medal history that the winner has a top 5 teammate. Now, you could probably Google it pretty quickly and find some examples, but compared to how many Brownlow Medal counts we've had, especially in the modern era, 1980 onwards, it just doesn't really happen. And because Heeney, I think, he's so far out in front, and Chad is going to take some votes off him. By no means am I saying otherwise. I'm not even saying Chad's going to poll poorly. But for mine, this has got Petrarca, Oliver written all over it. Both of them could finish top 5, but maybe don't get over the hump. Could that affect Heeney's Brownlow chances? It definitely could. But I also think that Heeney is so far out in front. Warner at this point is probably on less votes than we think. Because of the eye test, a 2 and a 3 will probably go to Heeney. If there's a fight for 1 or 2 votes, I think the 2 probably go to Heeney. Outside of the Carlton game, where Chad Warner was so far and away the best player on the ground, it's not funny. I can't see if Heeney is as far out in front as I think he is. I just don't know if I can put Warner in that top 3, top 4, or even top 5 spot at this point. In terms of who wins it from here, look, if everyone's fully fit and in their current form, Isaac Heeney's going to be the guy that takes out the Brownlow, I think. But if I think there is one challenger, it can be Caleb Serong. And like I said before, Chad Warner is a bit of a trap. Outside of that, though, I still think Cripper can go on a run as well. And even some guys we haven't spoken about yet. Could a Tom Green, if the Giants turn it around, get back up there? Who knows? But it's been a really fun start to the season so far, and I can't wait to see how this goes. But we also know one thing with the Brownlow: no matter who wins, fans are going to think someone else has been robbed. So there we go. What do you guys think 2.5 months into the season for AFL's most prestigious individual award? Comment below. Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts. Click the like button if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. Have an awesome weekend. I'm going to try and do a game reaction to either the Thursday or the Friday night game, so keep an eye out for that. Click that notification bell to get notified when all new videos drop, and have a fucking great weekend, you absolute superstars. See ya.